What's up, guys? Welcome to Off-White Appetite.
It's a wedding podcast with a craving for the non-traditional. We've got Emily from Asteria Floral with us today. Emily, what's good?
Hi.
Introduce yourselves. Tell the audience out there who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name is Emily. I'm the owner of Asteria Florals here in Sacramento, ESAC specifically. This is my flower shop, my feminist flower shop, we like to call it. And I do wedding and event florals. And then I also have a just regular old daily delivery flower shop as well.
Yeah, it's been awesome being in here today. We've done quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, I think the location is very nice in the heart of ESAC. So today's March 27th. And we're live here, actually, at Asteria. And as we're setting up this whole setup today for the podcast, someone came in looking for flowers. Like,
who was that?
Yeah.
I'm still in shock. Little Nas X came in.
Little Nas X, no big deal.
Flowers.
Yeah, pretty amazing that they wanted to come by and just check out and support Sacramento business, right?
Wild. And for those who are not privy to Sacramento, we're not like a major city. Like, yes, we're a capital city, but we're not like a major city. We have LA and San Francisco for that. We're like a small, big city.
Yeah.
So celebrity sightings are not often.
No.
I say as Leonardo DiCaprio was just filming a movie last month here, actually.
I actually saw, I saw Leo for the first time in person. I was getting my gear outside of the Citizen Hotel, turn around, see Leo, quivered a little. And then two cars hit each other in front of me because they were looking as well.
Stop.
I swear to you, it was hilarious. It was kind of hilarious, actually. It was like a
honestly, that's Sacramento behavior. That is Sacramento behavior.
Someone yelled Leo, and you see all these cars just stop and hit each other. And I turned and looked, but yeah, pretty amazing. Lil Nas X came through and super kind.
So nice. Was nice to my dog Storm, who's here with us today.
Talked about birthdays.
Analyzed all of our birthdays in a really beautiful way. There was like 6 people here, and we all have birthdays within like a month and a half of each other. And also like the most beautiful skin I've ever seen on a human being in my life.
How did you describe their skin? How do you describe their skin?
Like a baby deer.
Baby deer.
Like a baby, just perfect, pristine.
Gorgeous
I don't know why baby deer came to mind.
No, I get it though. Those doe eyes. Right?
The eyes.
That was it. Is the eyes. I know.
Yes.
But pretty amazing day so far. We had a content shoot day with Madison Taylor Photography.
Yep.
And Emily,
Also beautiful skin.
Yeah, and she definitely bit it hard over there today. Not to laugh, Madison, but I know you're laughing.
Yeah, she definitely snapped.
I hope you're okay. But it's been quite the day, just hanging out. Super grateful Emily's let us come in here and shoot an episode today and kind of just discuss what the floral industry is like in weddings and beyond, but specifically in weddings because I think a lot of people have a misrepresented idea of what they want versus what's doable in pricing and all those kind of things,
Yeah.
So we'd love to know a little bit of what you kind of think about, just what people's expectations should be when they're trying to plan their florals for their wedding.
Yeah, I think a really major point that needs to be said, and anytime anybody talks about floral pricing, this needs to be said, is the city you're in matters, the state you're in matters, all of those things matter because although, yes, we're in Sacramento, there's a ton of incredible local growers. The growing season is very specific, so a lot of things are shipped from out of state, out of country at times. So where you're at in the country really kind of leans into the price of florals. Here specifically, it's interesting. You have, I think if you Google like price for flowers for your wedding, the range starts at like $2,000 and goes all the way up to like $12,000 is the average, which is such a big range. It's not helpful at all. We like to use like 5,000, I would say, if you're trying to get just like the basics, which I know for some is such a huge number, but the unfortunate truth specifically after COVID is floral prices, they're just not cheap. They're expensive. They've grown a lot over the last couple of years. And that's like what we consider average if you want 10 centerpieces, personal flowers to cover everybody, some ceremony design, nothing like too crazy, but just like the general cost is kind of the number we use.
I mean, it's interesting too because like we work so many weddings that we see people, if they're on a budget, they will repurpose the flowers throughout the day.
Love that.
Right? Like, what do you think about people doing that?
I think you should absolutely repurpose your flowers whenever you can. I think something to keep in mind is some flowers are not easily repurposable. So you get a lot of people who want to like cut down an arch piece and put it on a sweetheart table. An arch piece is designed to be forward facing. A sweetheart table piece is designed to be facing off of the table. So those are two different things. But aisle entryway pieces, any kind of pillar pieces, bridesmaids bouquets, lots of things can be repurposed. Like I think that that's key these days.
It really does make a difference being able to do that, you know.
For sure, that's great. And you've obviously been in the industry for so long, and you've seen it all. For sure. But I'm kind of curious, like, what got you into the space in this industry, working with brides and running a floral business?
Audacity more than anything else. I had never touched a flower in any kind of a design capacity before. Going into COVID, I was working at a consulting firm, and I was doing lots of different stuff, but mostly like business management and marketing things like that. And I was helping my husband, who's a personal trainer, run his business. And then COVID hit, and the company I was working for let go of everybody who wasn't client facing, me included. And I had a really weird chance to sit back and reassess my life on government money, because they were doing
I think we all did.
they were doing all of the special EDD programs and all of that stuff. So I had a really cool chance to like sit back and assess, and I really like looked past all of my previous jobs and everything I had been doing, and I just did not want another boss again.
Yeah, I get it.
I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew I didn't want another boss.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of softly helping friends with their businesses, doing some soft business consultations here and there, website audits, Instagram tips and tricks, things like that. I met someone who through the world, who taught me kind of the ways of floral design, and through that the business was kind of built. And that was, I'm really bad at dates, but I think the beginning of 2020, so going into the third year now. And it just kind of took off. And I think and I was 32 at the time, so I wasn't like in my 20s. I'd already had like a full-fledged career when all of this happened. And it was just, sometimes you just have to trust your gut and see where it takes you. And if you're wanting to try something, just do it with your full chest, and it works out.
I completely agree, man.
You're 3 years in. I wouldn't think you're just 3 years in.
No.
It's been really wild.
You have a beautiful shop, and I mean, I remember when we worked Megan and Anthony's wedding, just how phenomenal the florals were. They were over the top beautiful. They fit their vibe 100. And that was like, they repurposed their arch, right?
Yeah, we moved the arch mid-wedding, and I had a business partner at the time, and we had a team with us at the time. It was like huge scale event, and that we actually placed that video on TikTok of us like moving the arch. We had to take our shoes off. We were all like dressed to the nines. We had to move it through a functioning restaurant.
Yes, like, and the whole reception was already set.
The whole reception was already set.
Which was wild because it was very tight. Very tight quarters.
Yes, but somehow we made it work.
You did it, and it's so beautiful. I'm gonna drop in a clip right here because you guys have to just see what it looks like. They're straight phenomenal florals.
Megan and Anthony specifically did an incredible job with their vendors. They picked vendors that we all ended up being like besties afterwards. That wasn't how I met you, but that was an event we worked together with, and that was how I met your wife, who is my book nerd friend. Like,
I know, it was super. It was like just like one of those dream team, and then like the guests, right? Madison, who's here shooting today, was one of the bridesmaids. Like everyone in Sacramento, I feel like the people that were a lot of fun creatives, kind of like our people, the non-traditional people. They were all at that wedding. You know, they had like tattoo artists.
Yeah,
they
it
had
was so
a poet
fun.
Creating custom poems.
Yes,
I mean,
all of the things. And I think that really speaks to when you trust your vendors and you kind of just let them take it and run with it. Like Megan had, first of all, she was incredible to work with, but she had like a general color scheme, and the rest she was like, do you girls, like do whatever fits in this. And it was just, when you give your vendors a chance to shine, as long as you trust them, they'll shine every time. They're going to go above and beyond for you.
Yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference.
Yeah, especially looking as a bride, you know, you consulting with a bride is like an important thing to, like, you know, synergy is key between the vendors.
And she owns a small business in Sacramento. Anthony owns small businesses in Sacramento, and they really wanted to bring that vibe to their wedding, and I think that that's just such a cool touch.
Yeah, they did one hell of a job being able to do that kind of thing. Every time someone watches their film, or I see the photos that that the photographers captured, they're just very much them, and all the different the energy of the day. You know, I remember they were kind of, you know, weddings are long, they're very drawn out sometimes, and they were like, I think, you know, it gets a little overwhelming, you know, all this attention on you. And they were at that moment, they're like, we don't really want to do golden hour photos, but we're like, it's cool, don't worry about it. But then they're like, we'll grace you with something amazing later. And it was everyone jumping in the pool And like it was insane.
And
it was one of the coolest things.
Jumping in the pool trend.
Yeah.
That was not like just because they saw a bunch of other inspo.
Yeah.
That was just like, this is what
That was just what they were
going
going to do. And it was so fun and genuine and authentic. And oh my gosh, I was so giddy. And I remember they were like begging us to hop in, right? And we were like, no, we have all this gear. And then we looked at each other and we're like, fuck it. And we just dropped everything and jumped in with them. It was just great. It was a vibe.
And all of those photos and videos just look like a group of friends who have known each other for a very long time, having a really good time.
I know. I have friend envy. I do. After seeing their group of people.
You were in it.
Yeah, but there are people showing up for them. It's just, I love seeing that, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you're at weddings, I think you could probably attest to that. Just seeing their people show up.
Yeah.
For them. It's just special, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
And for me, it's like when I go to weddings, I've seen like the most beautiful like floral design. I think what really makes it is the people, because I've been to it and see like the people aren't really vibing. It's not really that like fun environment. It's like, for me, it's like I'd rather have like that bond and you see that like fun. And
you can spend $0 on your wedding, and as long as you have the right people there, it's the most special day of your life. Still, fully believe that.
Yeah, we DIY'd our wedding.
Did you?
Which is crazy. And a lot of people.
Have you been married?
We've been married 2019, so not that long.
Oh wow!
Right, but it was crazy. Is like. Because we'd worked in the wedding industry with our other business we had, we were like confident we could probably figure this out. We worked with florists, a lot of florists who were like, here's our account. Go over to Flora Fresh if you need us, and we just got like, some basic things for them, tablescapes, because we ran out a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so it was like very low key, but like we focused more on like the actual, because our budget was super low, more on like the moments with our people, and it was
all
really
wedding
small.
vendors by nature have a small wedding budget.
It's
None
true.
of us are willing to
Isn't that
spend.
funny?
For sure.
It's hilarious. Like I didn't have a videographer at my wedding, but that's what I do for a living now. It's kind of hilarious, but yeah. So
yeah, for me too. I mean, I got married last year in June. The Vizcaya.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow,
You
we
probably
were
done
just talking about Vizcaya.
Yeah, you
That's so funny.
Done a ton of weddings there for sure.
Done a couple, yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things too. It's like, dang, like we spent money on photographer, videographer, but the floral thing is like,
it's hard to justify.
It's hard
the
to
cost.
justify.
Totally.
I know it's beautiful. It's like,
but it dies.
It definitely made our arch beautiful though.
Yeah.
Like, we had a triangle arch and like
It was
two beautiful
gorgeous.
flowers, and they actually repurposed that to our sweetheart table.
Love. Okay.
Which is great. But I've seen like, man, like if I go to these big weddings, like chandelier type flowers, so how do they justify like, like spending like 20,000+ on flowers in just like one day? It's crazy to think.
It's wild. And I'm a big proponent of first of all, just as a business owner, and I'm sure you guys agree, I love the power of no. I will tell a bride no so quickly and I have a very like extensive consultation process and all of that, because I need to make sure that we vibe well, because it's a long process. So something like where if they want like a chandelier piece and that's the only piece that they want, the visual impact isn't there for that. It's up in the ceiling. Like if you're adding greens to it, that's a couple grand, because if we're lucky, we can use a ladder to do it. Sometimes you have to rent one of those scissor lifts, I think they're called. Like it's a process. It's a lot of work. And if that's the only like visual impact piece you're going to have for your wedding, honestly, I just don't think it's worth the money. Right. Another florist might agree with you that it is. But for me, I feel like I am not doing your wedding service justice if you're spending a couple grand on something like that, and then everything else is clear of flowers, because that's what all of your money is going into. There are some pieces that are worth it. Something in the ceiling's not worth it.
Yes,
for sure. Because I know for photography and video, you can justify like, hey, it's only one time in your life. If you don't have this documentation or don't invest in video, you won't. You look back 5 years. But for flowers too, is like, how do you kind of like tell the brides, hey, it's only one day?
Well, first of all, I tell every single bride I talk to, the best money you're going to spend is your photographer and videographer.
Yeah.
She'll watch this. I had the best photographer and videographer for my wedding. We fell in love. We are very good friends now. We chat all the time. She's such a cheerleader for this version, because I wasn't doing this when I got married. So she's such a cheerleader now that I'm in the wedding industry. That is your documenter for the day. Everything else goes away. I think even if you're eloping, if you're just running down to City Hall, anything like that, still get a photographer, maybe a videographer if that's something that's important to you, if your budget allows it. But your photographer, there's a reason good photographers are expensive.
Yeah.
That is your documenter for the entire day. So there's certain things with flowers I'm willing to tell them, like this, no, don't worry, like cocktail hour. If you have a huge budget and you have a ton of money for cocktail hour, do it. Otherwise, that hour, everybody else is at cocktail hour. Your photographers are with you taking photos. You're going to get nothing there. It's not worth the couple $100 to place bud vases on tables. They're going to get knocked over every single time. Like, for me, I just don't think that it's there's certain areas where I will definitely tell a bride, like, listen, your budget can be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah. But that kind of honesty is super important. I think a lot of vendors are afraid to tell their bridegrooms or their couples, you know, like, there's ways to spend your money efficiently and effectively depending on your budget, you know, and like, you know, we're both photographer and videographers. We both do both. And, you know, my goal has always been like lifting up video so that the priority is right there with photo, but it's never been like that, you know? And now it's starting to become a little bit more so where this generation really loves the idea of having a video.
Well, specifically the way you edit your videos is so worth it.
But like, it really does, like having those things is it's easy to justify it a little bit more when you have something that's a little bit different and non-traditional, because if you don't, there are tons of others that can shoot it probably for less. And that's the hard part. Like, you know, this industry, you have to figure out a way to stand out. You don't have to, but like for longevity and for sanity, for me,
for
finding a way,
personal, like, just for wellness.
You want to. I want to find a way that find a niche, carve out a little niche in the industry. And I feel like it's the same way with florals, right? Because you're gonna have the same people who want, you know, like you said, pampas grass, right? Or
we were talking about this earlier.
Right?
Yeah.
You might, and you're like, fuck, I don't want to do that shit, you know. But like, you got to find your why, and every vendor has to find their why and like what drives them and like what makes them, you know, more unique to then going down the road to someone else, you know.
Well, and think about it like this too. What other event or what other situation is somebody hiring on, let's say 3 to 5, depending on what you're doing for your wedding, creatives? Like, it's not just a service, it's we are all creatives. This is all our art. So you're hiring on creatives, and it's such a, specifically for photography, videography, and florals, it is such a trust the process. Like, for me, I have to come forward with my brides with just very transparent and education based. You have no idea what I'm showing up with until the day up. That's terrifying. It's so terrifying. You have no idea. I can give you as many. I have, like I said, a very intensive consultation process. I have my proposal process has a mood board. It's got tons of stuff in it. I try to paint the picture as best I can. You have no idea if I'm showing up with it until I show up with it. That's terrifying. So for me specifically, part of my process is gaining that trust, because if you don't trust me, that's going to be a problem for this year process that we have coming forward. And I think that's, as vendors, that's us training our client base is to trust us, so that way we have a good relationship. It's when you have clients that don't trust you, that's where you have like the tough situations.
The nickel and diming.
You know what I mean?
Nickel and diming,
The questioning all the things.
Everything, and then just expecting you to go, you know, like we all want to go above and beyond for our couples, but if you give us a reason not to, right? Like constant micromanagement, that just proves that you don't have a good fit. That's all that is. You know what I mean? Because those aren't the people you want to work with. I mean, for us, like, we're always posting the things that, you know, the kinds of weddings that we want to attract. And that's the hard part. You might have a beautiful wedding, but maybe it's a Catholic church wedding. You don't want Catholic church weddings, but you need to pay your bills. You know what I mean? So it's like hard. Like, you don't want to maybe necessarily post, not because it was bad, but maybe it's not the kind that you want to keep booking, you know? And I'm sure it's the same kind of thing. Like, you get all these, you know, beautiful weddings, but sometimes maybe certain things don't align with what you really want to, you know, to pull in those kind of Megan and Anthony's of the world. You know what I mean?
The best of the best.
You might not be able to get those all the time.
And I don't think we live in a world of the customer is always right anymore, specifically with the wedding industry. Like, that doesn't exist. There's so much out there. There's so many vendors out there. There's so many people you could book for your wedding that it's okay that we say no to people who aren't a good fit for us, because it goes both ways. Like, we need to be a good fit for the couple. The couple needs to also be a good fit for us.
Amen.
It needs to really represent who we're comfortable with and the vision that we have for our business. And I think that's important. So that's why the power of, like, I don't remember who said it, but no is a full sentence. Just, like, if I get a consultation request from a bride and there's we all have our red flags. Like, I'm not going to get into my red flags because I did that on TikTok one time and I got a lot of hate, but we all have our red flags, just like everyone has their red flags for every situation. For sure. And there's certain brides that I'll get where I'm just like already in the first email, and they're not anything that's made by mistake. It's, you can tell an email first contact, kind of like they're painting the picture of who they are and what it's like to work with them. And I don't ever feel guilty for passing on a wedding because it's just not the vibe for me. Like, I have to work directly with you for a year plus. There's a lot of trust involved in it. I need to keep this my safe space.
Yeah, I mean, for like wedding vendors in general, I don't think a lot of people realize the time that we put into them leading up to, right? Like, especially y'all, like planners and florists. I feel like spend the most time with the couples. Like, you know, because I check in a few times, not that often. You know, as it gets closer, I don't know what about you? Do you check in pretty often? Or
like a couple weeks before. The week before the latest, so we can be on the same page. With things, with timeline, to know that, you know, we got the right place at the right time. But I think it has to be the same page the whole time.
But we're not like constant meetings for a year, right? You know, like you guys have to plan out your template or the color palette,
even the mood board too. Like we don't, for us videographers, like you hire us because you saw our work on Instagram or online, or someone referred you. But I didn't know you guys sent out a mood board. And
well, specifically, my mood board has a 5 to 7 range color palette. It has inspo images, but inspo images are tough because sometimes it's the right design style, but it's not the right color palette, or it's the right color palette, but it's not the right design style, or the color palette has flowers that the bride specifically requested they don't want. Like all of that plays into it. But then I also we never personally guarantee specific blooms because that's tough. Like last year in California, there were huge rainfalls happening in January. It ruined the May wedding season. Flowers are nature. I can't bet on nature, but we do guarantee color palettes. But what I'll do is I have a page where it shows you, hey, if everything goes right, these are the flowers I hope to get in the shade I hope to get them. So that way, at the very least, you can kind of get a visual representation of what these colors look like together, because I don't do the normal. I mean, I do the normal color palettes, but I also do different styles. I do a lot of moody. I do a lot of like bright and colorful that's not done in what I call primary colors, where it's like blocks of blue, red, yellow. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not good at it, so that's not what I like to do. So it needs to show like range. It needs to show my personal skill set with creating color palettes, and all of that has to be in the mood board, because how else am I going to show what I can do? I
mean, you kind of were talking, before we filmed, that you kind of like to match with the vendors that they've chosen, or suggest at least how they kind of can tie in. And I don't know if a lot of people do that.
This is so, again, it's so funny. I basically am a cheerleader for photographers when I'm talking to brides or grooms or whoever, is because color palettes are so important, because that's the vibe you're setting for the day. You can have a theme, but all of that comes back to the color palette. Most weddings, the bulk of the color palette comes from the florals. There is something to be said about matching your photographer with the color palette that you're going for. I had an instance once where they wanted a moody toned color palette for the flowers. They wanted moody tone, moody tone. They hired a very bright and airy photographer. So all of my moody tones were color edited, which is fine if that's what the couple wants at the end of the day. But for me, they were so moody. And then I get the photos back and I was like, this mustard yellow is suddenly bright yellow. Like,
why is this shit like crazy bright?
Yeah. So it's just, I think that it's so important, because couples they've never planned an event like this. In most cases, 90% of the time, if you're having a big wedding, it's the first wedding you're doing. Everyone learns their lesson after the first wedding. Their second, third, much smaller affairs. So this is the first and potentially only time they're doing this. They've never done this before. It's our job to like be the educators in this space, and it's our job to like help them along. A lot of cases, most couples hire, unless they're hiring the planner very, very first, they hire a lot of vendors before they hire the planner. So it's our job to educate them on our processes, because we're also different, like art preferences, things like this, where it's, match your photographer style to your color palette. Like, they don't think to do that. They just think, oh, I like these photos this photographer's posting. I like these flowers this florist is posting. Great, this is what I want. But how are those two going to translate together?
I didn't think about it that way, because
I
take a lot of flower photos at weddings, and I think about, man, like so much time has been spent on this centerpiece right here, and I'm photographing. I have to make the tones right to justify it, to really like,
a good point to be made there. I never get centerpiece photos back.
Oh, geez, that's wild.
That's
why you got to hire Aaron and Chase.
Right. 1, maybe 2 in every 10 do I get like a centerpiece photo back, which is so, because brides will send me their full galleries.
Oh, that's wild.
Isn't that crazy? Sorry, you just said that and it reminded me.
Not because I feel like, man, like for me, like when I look at decor.
So I appreciate that you pay attention.
I mean, especially for wedding videos, like I'm always throwing a couple detail shots of those, the florals, because that's what helps make it pretty.
I
feel like you guys don't deserve that much shine, especially on the, on that end, because like we had spent like the whole day setting this up. Even before we come to the venue, you guys are there already.
We're working on it for a full week leading up until
what's
the
crazy?
date
for one photo.
I had a wedding this past week, and it was downpouring, and so like detail shots were kind of they're a little ruined trying to get these shots. So everything, the reception's moved inside at Park Winters, which is great, but like I'm trying to use as much natural light to make it look real, because when you're inside with mixed light, it's really tough. And then so the outside, it stopped raining, and the planners are getting ready to grab the entire arch, and I said, wait. Like, I'm literally holding 2 cameras, like just doing a couple little push-in shots. That's and funny. Snapping some photos. And they were in the shot, but I blocked them just because they were holding it.
Yeah.
Just so I could get a couple, because I was like, the florist is going to like to have these. And it rounds out the day.
Yeah.
Even if it's rain drenched,
Well, and with couples, they're so, I remember when I got married, I have very high anxiety. So I have what I call anxiety blackouts. I'll go through full days of like high anxiety days where I just don't remember anything. My wedding day is one of those days. It took me months before I could like really think about my wedding day and not cry. Not because anything went wrong. It was a beautiful day, but it was just a lot for me. Yeah. And I could not tell you about what my wedding ceremony looked like until I saw the photos. I was like, oh, wow, that was really pretty.
Oh, yeah, I was there, I guess.
Yeah,
huh?
it was like, that's so weird. I don't have any memory of this day, but there's all of these photos as if I existed in it. But so I agree. It's for the bride or the couple too. I think it's an important thing because again, you guys are the documenters.
Yeah. And they're busy. They're all over the place. The couple.
Oh my God.
And you can tell them this as often as you can. Right. Like it's gonna go by fast, and it's still. They don't really get it until they're in it. And the go by fast isn't like how we think like, oh, we're going, I remember being in my early 20s and going out drinking. The first hour was slow, and then all of a sudden it was the next morning, and I was like, what did we do last night? It's not that kind of go by fast. It's like, you are constantly next thing. It's a lot. It's emotionally draining, right? Because it's a big day.
Well, you're on. Whole day.
And you're just like the center focus,
Yeah, and you have to be kind. You have to be welcoming. You're playing host to an event where you're like, not really in a weird way. You're kind of seeing everything from like the outside of it. I remember as a bride, like I thought I loved attention until I was a bride. And then I was like, this is not for me.
They called me Groomzilla on my You were the Groomzilla? I wasn't even a Groomzilla, all right?
You did one thing wrong.
I did like a few things because I am a little particular when it comes to things, But like, because we DIY'd a lot of stuff. Yeah. We like hung, we rented out like the McKinley Rose Garden. Oh. And so we had like draped our own things over some of the areas that we were getting married, to make it look a little bit more custom. Nice. And I just wanted it done a certain way, because I wanted my wife to be excited when she saw it. But I got Groomzilla a couple times later on, which is fine because they all know I'm a particular person.
At least you have flowers all over.
Yeah, we had some. Yeah, exactly. We had flowers everywhere. We didn't have to pay for shit.
Also, the idea of like Groomzillas and Bridezillas is just so cruel.
It is.
It's again, as a bride who has high anxiety, I tried my hardest to be as kind and welcoming and warm as I could throughout that entire process. But you don't know how you're going to react to that until you're in it. And it was, I felt, I am the only girl. I have 3 brothers. My husband is an only child. Like, I was the first in my family to get married. It was a lot of pressure for us. Absolutely. So like, I feel like just give the couple some grace. Don't call anyone a bridezilla or group. Now, if you're being mean to your vendors.
Yeah, don't do that.
Especially your florists.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just in general, don't be mean to your vendors. No. Maybe like if something's going wrong, take a step back or ask for feedback. Yes. I had a bride where there was some communication issues and she was like, can we jump on a call? And she was like, okay, so I think the frustration is I'm hearing this. Is this what you're saying? And we had been communicating via text at the time. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no. Mm-hmm. So like she took a step back and was like, okay, there's some disconnect here. What's going on? That is so great and amazing. You have other couples who don't do that and just deal with you in anger and like keep moving forward with you, but just deal with you in anger. And you're like, wait, why are we making this relationship bad? This was so good. Something went wrong here and there's a lot happening. So it's normal for something to go wrong. Let's work through it. Like, let's figure it out.
Yeah. No, it's definitely important, just to over communicate, I think, as much as you can with weddings. Yeah. Because things are constantly changing. Timelines can be changing, all sorts of little differences. And if we're not informed on those things, I had to reach out the other day to find out on my own that this wedding was getting canceled. I had to reach out to the planner who actually didn't even know either. So I was like, oh, okay.
I had a friend that just happened to recently. And that is like this for me coming up on the like wedding day. I've got the product already. Yeah. Like I've got all of this expense goes into it and it all dies in a couple of days. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. That's different.
See,
that's a lot different. See, I don't know anything about that. For wedding video and photo, like, yes, it sucks. We can do our best to try to backfill that date. But for y'all, you have product, right? Even like Okay, can
And
you
it's
tell me?
temporary
You have to.
product.
I need to hear what you
I'll
think
tell
about
you.
this. All right, styled shoots. Do you do them? Do you hate them? Why?
I do them. I'm very picky about the style shoots I do. I have to know and get along with some of the vendors because they're a lot, specifically for the florals. The florals tend to be like the biggest design element in a styled shoot. Yeah. And so it's a lot. I have to, whoever's planning it, I have to know and trust, because I cannot tell you how many style shoots I've done where they tell me what they want it to look like, and then at the end of the day, they got the wrong rentals for the, like there's so many pieces that go into it. Yeah. And it's a lot. You're there all day. Not all styled shoots are there all day, but I like to be there because I love behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. So you have to vibe. Like, totally. I mean, I met you at a styled shoot, and that was probably one of my favorite ones that we've ever done. That was so fun.
I mean, I kind of was like a last minute addition, because I also am picky about what I want to do, because there's time, right? Is like time is of the essence, and you want to make sure it fits. Yeah. But when I found out who was a part of it, I was like, oh, of course,
It was such a vibe the whole day.
It was a vibe. It was very, after I shot it, I was like, oh, this is very Romeo and Juliet like kind of vibe. I don't know why it felt like that.
It was a bunch of, so it was ACOTAR theme, which if you're bookish, you know what that is.
What is that?
And so it's a fantasy romance novel series. And a bunch of the vendors who were in on it just liked the books. And we were like, let's do something like in this theme. Stunning. The photographer, Morgan, you did the video, Morgan did the photos. Incredible. Yeah. She really got the tone of it all too, which is important.
Her style fit very well.
And it was in a venue. The Willow Ballroom out here is one of the most stunning venues in the area. It is difficult to shoot. Like the owner will say that it is very difficult to shoot. Morgan shot it very well.
She did.
But it was also just good vibes. We were all just there to have a good time. We all had creative freedom over what we were doing. So there's two things I look for is I need creative freedom. Give me the overall vibe of what you want. I will make a mood board and send it to you, whoever's planning it. Send it to you and be like, okay, this is what I think works for this. I'm never just going to show up with like blind and you don't know what's happening, but give me creative freedom. I'm at a point now where the flowers have to be paid for. Like,
yes, that's why I asked, because y'all have the most to put forward. I think, right? Yeah. Florists are putting in product.
We spend money to do that.
Yeah, you spend money. We're putting in time. Y'all are putting in time and money. Yeah. That's why I want to know what you think
in the beginning, the first couple of years, we did a ton of them at no cost because the content was important, because, you know, in the wedding industry, you get paid to do whatever the bride wants, and that's fine. But when you're kind of building, it's a lot of the same. Yeah. And we really wanted to showcase what we could do different. So we did a handful of style shoots at the very beginning that honestly really changed the game for us. I will say they were worth doing, but it's at the point now where I do them. It has to really fit. Yeah. I get asked to do a lot of them. It has to really, really fit. And at the very least, the cost of the flowers has to be, not like the full labor charge and everything, but just the wholesale cost of the flowers has to be paid for.
Well, when you do them, who pays for them? Typically, does the planner?
So I actually just recently did one, and it was what's called a shootout, which is where someone organizes it. They create the whole setting, and this had 3 wedding sets, and it was a photographer who created it, and it was a dozen other photographers paid tickets for it. So the ticket sales went into it.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, I do some where the planner will ask everyone involved to chip in a little bit for it, which I think is honestly the fair way to do it.
I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah. I've always wondered why I've never been asked to pay for it, because I'm like, well, this should be.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This is the best way to make it, everyone's getting content out of it. Yeah. And everyone's, teamwork, dream work kind of stuff. Yeah. But I was just curious, like, what you thought about, because I love styled shoots when you have the right team. It's like, shit,
That's the thing. You have to have the right team. It's also great to meet other vendors. Like, here's the thing is, again, I can only speak to Sacramento. I mean, we do work in the Bay and Tahoe and stuff, but really my bread and butter and my love is in Sacramento. And the vendor community here is so cool.
It is.
It's so cool. It's so worth meeting vendors and like creating those relationships and those friendships. Not because it could get you weddings in the future, but because we do such a weird job. And it's so niche. Our world is so weirdly small that it's just important to have people who relate, and it's important to have people who you can bounce. And in the floral world, too, all my best friends are florists in Sacramento who have shots in Sacramento.
Yeah, they're all supportive, right? Allie was just in here.
Allie with the Bloom Room was here just to say hi a little bit ago. She pops in all the time. I am so lucky that we have such a cool community of people who want to support each other out here, and there's no competition, and it really only grows all of our businesses, because if I get a lead that maybe isn't my vibe, doesn't meet my minimums, I'm booked on that date, I have 10 other florists that I can be like, hey, who's available on this date? Here's their inspo pictures. This is the budget that they're working with. Who can make it work? So then I can send that bride a qualified like florist or a couple florists, it only grows our business to work together.
Man, I wish I could do a styled shoot, man. I haven't done a styled shoot yet.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a while and hasn't done a styled shoot.
I do 2 a year. I don't have one done. I don't have one for like December time. I normally
we should do like we should split it up. One of us does photo, one does video. Because we get both our companies in it, you know.
Seriously.
Yeah, we should definitely do it. I have one coming up with Twine. Do you know Twine Floral Co?
No, but I love that name.
I've worked with them once before at a wedding, but it's with Curated as the planning. I do a lot with them. But it's funny is like, I actually, this is a really interesting thing to talk about. They sent me a client agreement, right? And I'd never had one of these for a styled shoot. And I was like, what is this?
I'm going to start doing one too.
And now I know why they do it. And I was like, but the verbiage I was concerned with, and I hopped on a call with them. This is why it's important to just communicate. So you're all on the same page. And I said, hey, like, there's some interesting things about you guys owning all the rights to my footage and everything. So can we talk about this? And it was like, yes. And I thought, you know what? I guarantee I know why they have this in here. They've been burned before. People backed out and they haven't provided the content they were promised, right? And they're all putting in time. And I called him and we got on a call and he's exactly like, we had a feeling this is why you wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, can we just adjust it? Because I give all shared copyright with everyone.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than complete ownership, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, the only reason is because you could easily take if you owned everything, you could take it, use it as your own footage for your brand, which I've had before happen. But again, that was just a communication thing where reached out like, hey, I actually use this footage for my own brand. Can you guys just not use it for your personal brand? Because it's a little cloudy. It's confusing for clients that see the same thing.
Totally.
But that's an important thing. And then we figured it out. And they were like, oh, we figured based on the email chain you were on that something may have happened with you and Hannah, like the planner before. And I said, yeah, we all worked this other styled shoot. And the florist was a very big florist.
Tell me after.
Very big, very well-known florist. And
I have 2 ideas.
I remember when they were like seeing the footage and the planning team loved it. They were like, this is so awesome. And then the partner of the floral company was like, the iPhone footage looks better. And I was like,
said that to you?
Whoa, someone chose violence today. You know, and so I was kind of like a little bummed by that. And then I called them.
Enraged.
Yeah, and then I had to they reached out for
Trader Joe's flowers look better.
I know.
That's the same thing. Like,
Well,
why would you say that to somebody?
they reached out then and asked for more content. And I said, well, apparently I'm not good enough. And they said, who said that? And I was like, you did. And they were like, oh, like gasp emoji.
Gaslighting you.
Yeah, and I was like, come on. So like, that's an example of like, just because you have a massive following and you're a big company doesn't mean you can do that to other vendors. You know?
I'm sorry, your following is a social construct.
Exactly.
None of that is real.
Especially now,
None
people
of that matters.
like everyone's got a blue check mark. Now,
Yeah, literally you pay for it.
Yeah.
I think that's really the important part is walking into a styled shoot. You have to be there, A, to connect with people, but B, because you're proud of the art you brought to it. That's important. And also, I don't do a styled shoot until they have a photographer already set, because I need to know, I cater my florals to how the photographer shoots for a styled shoot. Like, again, it's the color palette matching is so important. So for me personally, I need to already agree with the style that it's the direction it's going in. So I feel like that's too, if somebody has a problem with something like that, they just didn't do their own research.
I know, it makes such a difference because like it was funny because this stuff, when they brought like this kind of shoot to me, that was they told me like this is more of like that higher end luxury look, which is interesting because like luxury is such a buzzword in this industry.
Means nothing.
Yeah, and so for us, we're focusing on the non-traditional, like at least my business. I think Aaron, I could probably speak for Aaron, saying that we really do believe that you can provide a luxury experience and service, and that doesn't have to equate with a pastel look, right?
Luxury can have personality.
Yeah, it can be other things than your massive floral budget or the venue that you choose. It can be other things, and I think service is a big part of it.
For sure. I mean, luxury for me, when I think about that word, is like you having a photographer and a videographer.
Yeah, that's
luxury. Luxury, and having a florist is luxury.
Yeah.
Not everybody can.
Having a wedding is a luxury. Getting married is a right. Having a wedding is a luxury, no matter your budget. If your budget is $1,000 or $100,000, getting married is a luxury. And I think that that's, for couples, that's what they have to go into it knowing, is that what they're doing with, regardless of budget, that it's a luxury.
Yeah, and I think that's, because we were talking the other episode about content creators being a popular thing now for weddings, and my big thing is like, well, sometimes you might want to remember why you're getting married in the first place. If all you're consumed by are like reliving moments instantaneously on a phone, maybe like what's important to you? Everyone has their own priorities in a wedding, but like for me, it's like, well, you already have video. If you already have a videographer, then why do you need all of that? If you don't, I get it. If you can't afford a videographer, I think a content creator is probably a great option.
1,000% agree.
Right? Because then you have someone documenting the day in a little different way.
Yeah.
But if you have a video too, it's like, well, man, why do you need all that? Why are you spending? If you're going to spend $1,000 extra plus on that, you could. You could use that in other places.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Maybe make your florals even better, or client experience something, or for your not even a client experience, but your guest experience could be even better. You know what I mean? So
yeah, real quick question for you. Speaking of like the whole unconventional thing, what like can you share like a particular like memory, like something unforgettable, unconventional, untraditional like request you received from like a couple, and how you like.
Megan and Anthony had a tattoo artist
Yeah.
at their wedding. That was
Wow.
wild. That was so wild. I think that is like the best example I can think of non-traditional vibes.
yeah,
I also think that
they had some black flowers, too, didn't they? Or were they really dark?
no, they did pops. They did major pops of color. So we didn't use
That's
a
what it
single
was.
white flower in
Yeah.
there. I don't think we used a single white flower. It was hot pinks, hot reds. It was really fun. I think that when it comes to florals, it's just make it feel like you.
Yeah.
Like that's really the only thing that for me. And so theirs was really, really fun. We do a lot of moody weddings, which is really, really fun. And that's something that I enjoy because I think that's something that people think can't be a part of weddings. It's definitely trending up. I think that in a weird way, the all neutral tones, people are like fully combating that now. They're like going complete opposite direction with that now.
So, what have you been seeing? Like, how do you see the trends change, like in the next, I don't know, this next generation of like floral stuff?
Yeah. I think you hear a lot of florists talk about things they want to change. There will never be anything wrong with having an all white wedding if that's what you want. A lot of florists talk about how like, oh, I never want to do a white and green wedding again. That's what the bride and groom wants, or the couple wants. That's what you're going to do. I think that the trends that I see happening are more people are intentional with their choices. So I won't say that they're picking more color. Definitely I'm seeing people picking more color, but I don't think they're picking color to shock or to be different. I think they're picking more color because we're in a really cool spot in florals right now where color is more accessible than it ever was. Yeah. The reason I think for a long time all white weddings were such a big thing is because you had nothing to compare it to. Like we didn't have the internet where you could see 1,000 different inspo images of 1,000 different things. So I think color is trending forward for sure, but I think it's doing it in a way where it's A, color is more accessible than it ever was before, and B, it should speak to the couple. Like, I think if you want to do an all white wedding, that's totally fine. I think there are ways to do all white weddings that still make it feel very like modern and fun and can really like lean into the couple. I think there's ways to do colorful weddings, moody weddings. There's no wrong answer when it comes to it, but I do see a lot more color forward weddings. And the way I'm seeing the color forward weddings is fun because you have people who want to do like the soft spring tones, which are like pastel, but they want to do like 7 different pastel colors. Wow. That's a great way to add color to your wedding without it being like crazy stark, right?
Yeah,
like
not over the top.
Yeah, you can add just soft tones and it looks very spring. It looks very like English garden. Thank you, Bridgerton, for creating this trend. I'm a fan. And then you have people who really do the hot tones. So I'm doing a wedding Mother's Day weekend actually where it's all like hot oranges. And I think when people think of color, they think of like cheap or tacky or whatever. That's not what it is anymore. Yeah. Like you have the right florist who can kind of curate that color palette to really be consistent with the wedding. I think that's the biggest thing is that's really like the biggest trick of being a florist is being able to do a color palette. Like design's one thing, but putting together appropriate color palette, like when your client's saying orange, you don't just want like a wave of orange. You want lots of tones. You want things that work well. You want dimension, all of those things. And that's like the trick to it, I think.
Yeah, that makes a big difference when you see like, like I just did the wedding I just did. They did those pastels, they were a little bit more like the RGB, kind of pastel, like primary colors, but it looked beautiful because it wasn't overly saturated. So it didn't feel like that kind of tackiness that people can kind of think about. And it just fit the entire vibe and it looked really classic, but yet modern, and it was beautiful though.
I think the best way to really like whatever color palette you're doing is for a long time, we had 2 colors, right? There's a quote from, what's the movie? Steel Magnolias that I love, where it's like, my colors are blush and bashful. Your colors are pink and pink. Once upon a time, you had 2 color tones for a wedding. It should be 5 to 7. Whatever your palette is, whatever color story you want to tell, 5 to 7 is how you really make it visually interesting.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That's a good thing.
Even if you want to do like whites and greens. Yes, but do whites with buttercreams, true creams, greens should have a range of green tones in it. It shouldn't all just be one tone of white and then one tone of greens. Like the silver eucalyptus was big for a while. That is such a specific color, and it doesn't lean into anything around it, so it looks so stark.
It's that blue-greenish, right? The kind of bluish-green vibe,
See, this just adds to my newfound respect for florists. Like, they're probably so good at color grading.
I know color
You're like
theory,
a live
right?
editing on the day. Like, you putting stuff on.
It's
like,
wild,
It's like they're editors.
It is. It really
creatives.
is. I mean,
Well, and I'm sure just like photography editing, you step back from a photo and you're seeing all these things that it looks fine already to me, but you're like, no, I have a lot of changes left.
and I mean, when we especially in video, when we're color grading in video, like creating what we call color contrast, so you're having like teal and orange is very popular in Hollywood. A lot of movies you see are a teal and orange palette. Might not be as teal and orange as you think it is, but it's like those because naturally skin tones fall on the orange line, and then you have all these like kind of cool lighting or skies and things like that. So they kind of, that's a very trendy look. So like just stylizing things in films, especially in weddings, that's the hard part, to be creative, because you really don't want to misrepresent florals or skin tones. For me, that's a big thing now, is making sure skin tones are accurate.
That was so important for me when I got married. I got married in 2000. I'm going to say 17.
Yeah.
I'm not great at dates. That could be wrong. Alex will correct me the second I get home. I am a redhead, a darker haired redhead. I spray tan because I look sickly otherwise. I got married at the Firehouse, which is in Sacramento. It's all brick building. So my photographer, I had this full conversation with her of like, I'm going to be orange toned with orange hair standing in front of brick. Like, we need to figure out what this is going to look like. Because
where are my Lucky
important.
Charms?
Like, she was the most expensive purchase I did for my wedding and the most worth it. As a bride, I don't think you always think of those things.
Totally.
But that was when Instagram had like all of its like toned filters, and none of them worked for me because I was spray tan. So like I was like, I know my skin's orange, I just don't want it to look orange.
When I first started shooting, like just dabbling, I remember everything I shot on my wife. She's like, why do I look yellow? Why do you do this to me? And I'm like, I thought it looked beautiful. She's got beautiful blonde hair. It turns out I was not very good at it at the time. And I just leaned way too warm. And now I know what to do and how to make things look natural.
We all have our learning curve.
Yeah, but it was just so funny because I was like, oh, and I look back on those photos now like, damn, you were right. Like, this looks horrible.
Well, and then too, I think with anything creative, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume it's the same for you guys. There's theory and then there's practice.
Exactly.
It's two very different things. And I think it takes a while to figure out what your own style
Yes.
is. And even if somebody looks at it and they're like, oh, well, these two photographers do the same thing, that's never true. Like, no matter what, that's just never true.
Yeah.
I do have a request that I'd love to see with photography and videography. I would love to see photographers and videographers hold on to the raws and have practice or like packages where in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, they re-edit them where with whatever the current
that's interesting.
whatever is. I think about that all the time. My wedding, again, I loved it.
Yeah.
I would be so curious to see what those raws look like because when I got married, it was highly edited photos, like a lot of color adding.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's very different.
Very subtle.
Yeah, that's actually true. I mean, a lot of photographers we do keep our work. I keep mine. I mean, for that reason, we'll re-edit later on.
Lauren, I'm going to call you and see if you can do this.
Yeah,
for me.
a lot of photographers will do it just for their own catalog, so they can do that. Like they revisit it with maybe new techniques they've learned or new presets they've developed, anything like that. Video.
Well, for content, why would you not? It gives you different things to post on Instagram. All of the same media.
For video, it's hard because
that's a lot.
The data. Oh my god! Like
That's a lot.
And the quality of the camera.
The quality of the camera changes, so you could have had that 5-10 years ago. It was a very big difference now.
Because raw files for photos are kind of more like blank canvas.
Yeah.
But for videos, like the way it's shot.
Yeah.
The way it's shot really dictates it. So I don't ever like have anyone else shoot video for me. Like I'll have a second shooter, like Aaron will shoot with me sometimes, but I would never associate shoot someone out because I shoot such a specific way and I know how I'm going to edit it later that if someone else were to shoot it, it would be really hard for me to edit it my style. And I had one time it happen and my wife was like, how are you going to polish the turd? Because the footage was not good. And truthfully, I made this thing look way better than I thought I was. And I was like, damn, I'm pretty good. Like, this doesn't look like a turd. I mean, maybe a turd, but, like not as shitty of a turd,
But I feel like that's something that would be so interesting to see, like, especially if you're going like in like jumps of 10 years. Styles change, editing technology changes, like all of that stuff. I just think it would be so interesting. Like I would so pay my photographer to re-edit those with like current. Although when I got married, I don't know the store. Everything is so advanced now. I didn't get married that long ago, but it was just on the cusp of like this huge trend of like individual photographers and videographers coming forward. When I got married, it was something where it was a lot of companies that were doing it. So I think that with that trend forward of a lot of individual people creating their own businesses, the technology kept up and moved forward with it.
Yeah.
At the time, I don't know, but
it's the golden age of IG.
It is.
yeah, I would be so interested to
That's when I
see.
started,
That I feel like just as a bride, but also as somebody who's in the industry, I feel like that'd be so fun to see like some of my photos just not all of them, but maybe like I pick my 10 favorite and every 10 years they're re-edited with whatever like the current.
I mean, I do that now. Like I take those photos I first started out with my kids. And I just like, oh my God, these look way better now. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine having an entire gallery.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that was kind of what we were talking about too earlier when Madison was here. Like, you know, people are really obsessed with like, I don't want my stuff to feel dated, right? My film or my photos
What
to feel
is that?
dated.
It
But
is
you're like,
dated.
but
It's
this
already
is when you got
dated.
married.
Yeah,
That's
guess
when
what? You
got married.
look 28.
Yeah.
I mean,
in
people
20
from-
years, you're not going to look 28
Exactly.
anymore. Like, it should look like this. I'm sorry. I get so crazy about this because there are some things that I do believe in that with. However, this is such a cool stamp of your life.
Yeah.
Like, this is such a small period of your life that you get. That's why I also tell my couples, the engagement portion of your relationship is so small. Really live in it and enjoy it. Yeah. It's such a small piece, and not everyone gets to enjoy that.
Yeah.
But same thing with like your whole wedding process. It is right now. It's happening right now. It should be a stamp of this time in your life, because that. I do understand timeless, but even timeless to vendors
What's
doesn't
timeless?
look timeless.
Yeah.
I can date something that's timeless.
Exactly. What is timeless? Like
the
that's
bow
subjective
trend.
as shit.
I love it. It's not timeless.
Yeah.
I'm going to look back in 10 years and be like, that was the end of 2023 going into 2024.
Yeah.
Like,
if anything right now, I mean, the one thing that people will be like, the people who talk shit about blurry photos, which I'm going to stand on
How
my,
dare they?
die on my fucking hill. I think that's motion blur.
Motion blur.
It's not blurry photos. There is a technique to it, you know, and it
has to be you have to do it tastefully.
you
though.
do it tastefully and like not overdo it, but it does add movement and dynamics. And to me, it gives a little bit of sense of feeling to it. You know, just the same thing like people like
also,
to talk,
if you don't like it,
then don't
do it.
Exactly.
Don't buy it. You
be
don't have
honest,
to comment on things that other people are doing that they enjoy. Like
Exactly.
the Taylor Swift said it. The worst kind of people are those who make you feel bad about something that gets you excited.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, and a lot of photographers like to do this in video. It started out in cinema, are doing, you know, Dutch angles, which are at an angle like this, right?
Okay, I am seeing this. That's a trend that's happening.
Well, that's a trend, but it's an actual
I didn't know it had a
technique,
name.
and the technique of it is to create a sense of tension, right? But like, just like I talk about this all the time with weddings, you know, when we're trying to create stories, like Aaron's company, they use a lot of dialogue from their weddings, and that you know,
I love that.
you got to try to create. We go to watch movies because we love conflict. As human beings, we love conflict. Whether it doesn't have to be necessarily a negative thing.
Insert the AMC Nicole Kidman. We come to the movies
We come to AMC theaters to laugh, to cry.
to laugh. Sorry, the way you said
it's
that.
true.
We watch movies
But
because.
I think we like those kind of things because we like to see the conflict so that we can get that payoff of that resolution or whatever it might be. And creating conflict at a wedding is so hard to do because it's supposed to be a happy day.
Yeah.
The conflict can come in a lot of different ways. It could be something the couple went through, right? All these different ways that they came out on the other side. And there are techniques to do that. And Dutch angles are a great way to kind of create those kind of uncomfortable feelings, but it doesn't have to be uncomfortable in a wedding. Just create something different and
It's
fun.
actually something artistic, something unconventional. It's like an addition. They're not going to send you a full gallery of like Dutch angles or blurry photos.
Oh, that would be hilarious
You know,
just to do it.
It's just an addition of our craft and our creativity
Yeah.
to serve you. Like, you know, like we're gonna give you something like that's different.
Yes.
You're not gonna see it other like albums from like 5 years ago.
But once again, we're creatives, we're artists. Like it should show a little bit of, you know, technique, adjustments, whatever the case
And playfulness.
may be.
Let's just have fun.
Yeah, playfulness. And it's just, you think about it like this, when you're going on a drive, do you want to drive down one long road or do you want to drive down a road that has a couple of turns to it? That's what that makes me think of. It's like you're going in to the next turn. Like, and as someone who my husband and I were huge cinephiles, all of that to me is so important because it tells the story.
Exactly.
It tells the story. Otherwise, all the images are the exact same. Why do you want 2,000 images? I don't know how big wedding galleries are.
Sometimes
1,000?
they can be. I mean, I usually do around.
I was like, let me not tell people that they're supposed to be
They
getting
can vary
2,000
quite a
images
bit.
back.
It depends on how long the wedding is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you don't want 1,000 images that look all the same but different scenes. That
Chest to
as
chest
someone
all
who
day.
gets
Quality
tons
over quantity.
of galleries back,
Yeah.
I get so many galleries back. That gets so boring to look at.
It does, and it just doesn't. It doesn't make you feel. I mean, to me, you know, what part of why I started doing what I do is to make people feel something.
Yeah.
My biggest compliment I could ever get from someone is like, I cry when I watch your films and I don't know those people. And I'm like, when people tell me that, or like I made me feel like I was there and I don't know them. And I'm
I
like,
do scroll through a lot of videographers on my feed.
Yeah.
You're the only one I stop and
oh,
watch.
well, Aaron's phenomenal too. But
I just started following Aaron though. This is a new friendship.
Yes. It is just, but when you can make people feel,
Yeah.
that is an irreplaceable feeling. And that to me is like, I tell people, I'm like, if you can't afford video, find the money somewhere because you will not regret it. I mean, even the
At
shittiest
least at the
video.
ceremony, honestly, at least at the ceremony.
Even like I said the last time, even the shittiest wedding film, you're going to love because it's you and your partner.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Yep. You get to relive your day no matter what. You're still going to love it.
Yep.
Totally.
And so it's like just do it.
Looking back at it like 10 years ago, 10 years from now.
Yes.
It's like, wish I had it.
Exactly.
My parents didn't have any film.
I didn't have one.
Yeah.
So,
You know?
yeah.
We added a film onto ours very last minute, and they did a great job. But I rewatched the ceremony part of it because that for me is, I'm gonna get like worked up about it. That's my favorite memory of my life is my wedding ceremony. That is the only part of my wedding that I clearly remember is my partner, my husband, and I like standing in front. And my little brother, my littlest brother. He was like 27 at the time, was our officiant. We did it in Old Sac. Whatever the boat is that goes down the Old Sac,
the
Delta King, Delta Queen,
the Delta,
whichever one it is.
Yeah.
Was like blasting their horn in the middle of it. It was just such like a fun, it was so us where it's like as perfect as this moment is, of course there's something. Like it was so fun. My little brother who is I have to stop calling him my little brother, but my brother who is I would say generally an introvert, just was there with such confidence that day because he is like always been Alex and my biggest cheerleader. And he's just so happy that I'm happy, was just the officiant that you would think he was paid to do it. He was there with so much confidence and so much charisma. And I was like so proud of him.
Yeah.
And then it was just having that video specifically is I visit that probably more than I do my photos because I get to relive the moment, you know? I have a question for you guys actually.
Sure.
Does it break your heart when you send somebody 1,000 photos and you only see them post the same 3 over and over again for years? Because that would break my heart.
What do you think?
For me, it's like, it's what they post on social media. It's cool, but I feel like as long as they, cherish the photos like privately, I guess it's cool. But it's kind of weird. They're gonna post the same. Why would they post the same photo over and over?
There's an app called Scroll, and brides and grooms and grooms and grooms, brides and brides, and you can post as many fucking photos as you want, and it's an amazing way to share your content.
Well, you can do carousels now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a carousel with a ton of photos you can put in, right?
Yeah.
So I just did one the other day, and I think there was 40 photos in it, right? And it's a cool way to be able to share a lot more because. Yeah, when I do an engagement session, I want to share more than a few because there's like it's hard to choose when you have a fun couple, But Taylor Swift tags are photographers.
Yeah.
Remember that, guys.
But you know what hurts
Tag
us
your
though?
vendors and leave them reviews.
Yes, please do.
You know what?
Leave them 4-star
please.
reviews or 1-star reviews.
Yeah,
Leave
5 stars or
them
nothing,
5-star
baby.
reviews, and leave them reviews on everything. Even if you're copying and pasting the same message, brides find us or couples find us in all different ways. Like send it to every platform. If
true.
you have a grievance with a vendor, take it to them. Don't take it to the internet. Sorry.
Yeah, you know what hurts
No,
us
we like
vendors
that.
though?
We love it.
I think it relates to you too, Chase.
Yeah.
And also what hurts us vendors when you post a photo of our work and you edit over it with a filter.
I see that and I don't understand
God.
it. I wonder if some people it's like they can't help. It's like muscle memory or something. They don't know how to do it.
I think it's they just there's some of them. Some people are just it's just an arrogance. Truthfully, I do think some people just want to be able to control the situation, so they want to like add a little special sauce to it. I have one. I don't no longer work with them. Aaron knows what I'm talking about. But worked with this one guy and did all of his photos, and Aaron shot photos with me for him. And every single time they post something, I'm like, why does this look wrong? There's something wrong about this. This is not this is not the content I made. And there's someone on his team, or he does it, where he would add this filter that's like a clarity filter. So it pulls out your pores. And it doesn't make you look better. It makes you look more gritty and wrinkly and old. And I'm like, who's doing this to this work? And he stopped tagging me recently because we no longer work together. And I'm like, thank God, don't tag me in this
Don't
shit.
tell people that I did that. I did not do that.
I didn't do this stuff, So
I think too, sometimes we all see ourselves in the lens of our mind and our actual day to day. This is something that just being a vendor and having to like put myself on the internet more and like doing TikToks and reels and having to be in front of a camera more often, where when you're doing videos, you can't edit yourself the way you can in photos you take of yourself. The way we are perceived is not the way we perceive ourselves.
Totally.
And that is such a tough thing to get past. But the people who talk to you day in and day out, they know what you look like.
Yeah.
Like, just because this is a new image of you for you, that's what everybody else is always already seeing. So I think that that's probably when people have these filters that they already like the adjustment on.
Yeah.
But then, like, why pay so much money?
I don't know. People, it's like, people are going to do what they're
It's like,
do,
man,
you know?
like you set up all your flowers already.
Yeah.
The reception ceremony, you see somebody, oh, I think this will actually look better if you put it right
Yeah,
here.
or they're just, you know, there's a million things people can do.
Or they like move things around and you're like, the bride wants this right here. And they're like, oh no, I think it looks better over here. And I'm like, you didn't pay me. So
Yeah, it's tough because like we're trying to put our best foot forward. And so we just I think we just obviously want to, it's just hard. You're always searching for the right clients that aren't going to touch anything. And they're just going to be like, yeah, we love it. Cool.
Well, and it's also weird because we're advocates for the couple, right? Like that's who hired us. We are advocates for the couple, but they themselves have all of these other opinions of things and people's opinions and impressions. Where I did a wedding one time where the tables were all set and the mother of the bride came through and was trying to reset the tables, and I had to watch this poor planner have this entire conversation with the mom of like, this is what the bride sketched out she wanted. The mom was like, well, I'm here and I'm telling you she will hate this. And I had to watch this poor planner advocate for this bride to her mother. Like it was just such a terrible position for her to put the planner in anyways, like the bride's mother. It was just, so I feel like that's part of the weird thing is we're also advocating for our clients to strangers, to us who mean something to the bride. So we have to be so kind because we're a reflection of the bride, even though they're going against the bride.
Yes.
It's
I know.
So
it's really, really hard. You
it's
have to
so
like,
wild.
you have to try to like, you're acting as like several different kinds of people for the couple on that day. And you don't want to step on toes but it's just tough.
Oh, I can't tell you how many times I do set up where a guest or someone adjacent to the event comes up and has their own commentary to make about what the bride or groom or couple picked out of what they want for their florals. And it's rude, first of all. Like, I was doing a moody wedding and this woman came up and she's like, are these from Halloween? These look dead. They were toffee roses, which are expensive, not dead, expensive. They're like a very expensive varietal. And this woman was just being so rude, A, to the person who made the flowers, but B, to like the taste of the bride.
Yeah, I think it's just important to make sure you're always respecting your vendors, right? And respecting the guests at a wedding, and you know everyone will get along quite well, and you won't have any issues. And try to just, everyone's there to serve all the vendors are there to serve the couple. Yeah. And the guests are there to try to celebrate and enjoy the couple. Yeah. So it's like, it's just like trying to find that balance to make sure everyone's getting along and having fun.
Yeah.
Right?
And also if you're a guest, you're a guest. Keep your opinions to yourself.
Exactly.
The bride
just
and groom,
the
couple did a beautiful job. Whatever they picked is right for them.
Yeah.
It's not your business.
Exactly. That's a great way to end it right there. Exactly. Mind your business.
Mind your own business. Well, Emily, man, we have so much good content.
I know. So much information we've learned.
Man, yeah, I learned so much. I'm so like right now, like I already respect florists. Like or now I'm like.
You know when they talk about like what do you do when they talk about photographers? Oh, you guys just push a button, right?
Yeah.
We're like, no. Same with florists. Like, you guys just like put flowers in. No, there's so much more, right?
It's so fun because everyone thinks we're like these soft, like mythical creatures, like just in the flowers, and it's like this is hard labor. Yeah. And we're running a business, so it's a lot more than I think people think it is. Just like with you guys, it's an art. Everything's an art. Respect people's art.
Exactly. Respect people's art.
Also, I'm so happy I got to spend the whole day with you guys.
I know. We appreciate you.
Maddie that was here earlier. It was such a fun day.
It was Maddie. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emily. We appreciate you letting us come into your space and sharing a little bit about your business. Everyone, make sure you check out Asteria Florals. They're out here in East Sac. Phenomenal. One of my favorite shops around. Emily is just amazing. And make sure you hire your florals, hire your florist, and take care of all those things. And if it's going to be 115 degrees, make sure they know what they're doing, because no one wants wilted flowers.
All right, thanks for listening. Off-White Appetite.
Yeah, find out what you're craving, guys. Peace.